Hello and welcome to the Rambling Europeans page. Now, I actually haven't made any videos, but recently we did have a presidential election here in Austria, and I decided that I would have to help people understand, right? Now, of course, as we all know, a Green politician, Alexander van der Bellen, has been elected as the president of Austria. There's a divide between what this means in practice and what this means in theory. The Austrian constitution gives the Austrian president a whole lot of powers, actually. It's a very important figure. He's almost like the kingpin. However, in practice, most Austrian presidents of the Second Republic, so that's since 1955, you just haven't done jack shit when they were in office, right? I mean, they show up on television like 3 times a year. You don't hear about them. They don't talk a whole lot. So what the election meant on Sunday, it wasn't an election of, well, if we pick this guy, it'll get much worse, and if we pick this guy, it'll get much better. It was more of a choice between, are we okay with being complacent and we're just going to enjoy the exact same level of involvement and participation of the president, that means doing fuck all, or are we going to decide that we want someone who's a little bit more engaged in our day-to-day lives? And the Austrian public seemed to have been satisfied with the job of the president, and so they decided to vote for the Green politician. Now, of course, for anyone who does a little bit of digging, they're going to find out that this guy used to be in the Communist Party, that he's probably a Marxist and stuff like that. Yeah, he can't really do anything with those intentions in the office of the Austrian president. He can't do much about it, right? That position isn't that powerful. I mean, the Austrian president, he appoints ministers. He appoints the parliament. He can dissolve the parliament if he doesn't like what's going on. He appoints military officials, so it's more than a ceremonial figure. Does have quite a bit of powers, and he's directly elected by the people, by the population of Austria which is eligible to vote. So that's everyone with citizenship 16 and older. Now, of course, this election was highly interesting because there wasn't any establishment candidates, right? Usually it's SPÖ or ÖVP, so that's the Socialist Party and the People's Party, who put up a candidate and they go, well, here's our offering, do with it as you wish. And usually one of them gets elected. This is the first time in this country's history, and I believe in Europe's history, that we have a non-establishment president in the office of the president. And now the Greens, I believe, are in opposition. They're not in a coalition with the current government. Now, we have a Green president now. That's obviously interesting. It's not going to change anything, though, because from what he said in the TV interviews and stuff like that, he's just going to continue doing what his predecessor did, Heinz Fischer, socialist, which is nothing. Just sit around, as I said previously. Now, here's where we turn to our right-wing candidate, our good friend from the FPÖ, the Freedom Party, Norbert Hofer. Now, he's much younger. He's 45 as opposed to 72 of the president which just got elected. And he's, well, what he wanted to do was really use the position of the Austrian president to the full extent which the Constitution allowed him to, right? He wanted to be active, pressure the government, especially in times of peril, like right now. We're having the migrant crisis, which is going to get much worse in the summer again. We're having TTIP is being discussed, which is horrible. It's a horrifying prospect. I don't want that signed at all, but it's not really up to me. So Hofer would have promised much more engagement in being the president. He would have gone and talked to the people and done all this stuff, and probably half of it is campaign promises and not really to be taken that serious, but it's nice to think about, and because his competitor didn't mention any of these things whatsoever. And yeah, so here we are with a green president. It's it's if you boil it down, as I've tried to say now twice or three times, it really just is, do we want more of this shit going on? Or do we want to see what happens if it's less shitty? Because the governments and the presidents have all, they've just done nothing. You can't measure them that well. Uh, in my opinion, it's just all shit. They, they're bad at doing their jobs. They have, I don't know if they have bad intentions, but whatever they do end up doing ends up being bad for this country, which I don't like, obviously, since I'm on the receiving end. Yeah, it was really just a choice between, are we okay with more of the same, or let's go try something else? Of course, then the election became a little bit questionable. The Ministry of the Interior, they leaked some web page which had a test result of the election on it. Some people took it serious, of course. And then it was in the media too, because how could this happen? The only thing that I would say is questionable about the election results is that the first 5/6, so that's 83% of the election result was counted on May the 22nd. And then this election result was 52% to 48%, with Hofer winning, the right-wing candidate winning. This was also 3.8 million votes, if I remember correctly. Then on May the 23rd, they counted the final 16% of the vote, right? This was 766,000 ballots. Postal vote, right? These were absentee votes, whatever, people who didn't go in person. And the absentee vote ended up being 38% for Hofer and 62% for Van der Bellen. Now, I mean, I'd say there's something to think about when the final 16% of the vote, which is counted at the end, has such a drastically different result, because literally nowhere else in the world are you going to find such a large deviation. But in the coming 6 years, provided Van der Bellen lives this long, because he's a chain smoker, some people doubt his health. They think he might die of lung cancer, but I don't want to wish anything like that on people. It's, it's morally low to do that. Provided he lives the full 6 years of term, so that will be until 2022. Not much is going to change in Austria. We're going to have probably two general elections until then, because this parliament is about to collapse no matter what. And yeah, it's just going to be more of the same, really. I mean, if the government doesn't change, the parliament, the coalition in the parliament doesn't change, it'll just be more stupidity at government level, paid for with tax money, of course, and they will just continue ruining the Austrian economy. Of course, they're going to let us get stampeded by the migrants again. This year's going to be much worse. The summer isn't even here yet. And yeah, that's about it. That's all there really is to accept. It's not that it's going to get much worse. It's already been bad. You can't really be much worse than something that's already bad, right? I mean, you have to imagine that the level is so low of the involvement of the Austrian president, what he does for this nation, that any upturn would really be groundbreaking from anyone.